Attack on Titan is a good series, but there's probably a bunch of people here who are like, seems cool, but I don't really want to watch the full thing, so can you give me a rundown? And if you're in that group, or if you're just here for funny Titan timelines, then you've got the right place. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you're subscribed. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Time immemorial. There was a worm. I think it's supposed to be a hallucigenia. Well, it's extinct now, but it's basically the reason why all of this starts happening. They're supposed to go extinct or something, but one of them does survive.
Wait a minute!
Does that make Titans actually dinosaurs? Prehistory. About 2,000 years ago, the world was mostly peaceful except the Eldians, who were speedrunning Alexander the Great's record. They go to every place they can find and plant their flag down somewhere, which includes the backyard of a girl named Ymir. Ymir ends up becoming a slave and has her tongue cut out because that's just what they did to slaves back then. She's forced to serve the king of Eldia however he sees fit, and he sees fit to make her a pig farmer. She tends to the pigs, but has an urge to let one out, and she does just that. Well, the pig ends up dead, and the king asks who did it. As if they could even tell him, he cut out their tongues. He tells them to figure out how to tell him or he'll take an eye too, so they just point straight at Ymir, and we're then supposed to feel bad for her getting caught for doing something that she did. Normally, I wouldn't feel too bad for her, except this place is brutal. These people are brutal, and sadly, her punishment will also be brutal. They decide to play fox hunt, but instead of hunting foxes, they're hunting little girls who let pigs out of their pens. And so Ymir begins to run, and as she's shot at by bows, she notices a big tree, one that stands taller than any other, and thinks, how unsuspecting, and decides to hide in it. As she hides though, she slips and falls to an underground well of water where there just so happens to be an ancient worm that sees her and decides to play venom, attaching itself to her. It then turns her into a massive titan with no face and apparently scares off all the hunters. Now that she's the most powerful being in the world, free from slavery, she has to make her decision on how to spend the rest of her new life. She decides to go back to slavery. Like, bruh. Anyway, the king, impressed by her power, decides to let her come back and work for him, and in return he'll use her to build houses, roads, and do all manner of agricultural good for the kingdom. Also, he uses her to kill everyone too. She does such a good job, he decides to reward her by forcing her into marriage and then forcing her to give birth to 3 children.
It's like a reward.
And she loves it. Whatever floats your boat, founder. Well, about 13 years pass and the king is watching his soldiers come back, and suddenly one of the soldiers decides to attempt to assassinate him. Ymir jumps in front of him and takes the spear and hits the ground. He looks down at her and says, "'Tis but a scratch, walk it off." And she dies though. On purpose, because for someone who was so happy, she was actually very sad. The king then decides that he can't let that power go, so he makes her into a manwich sandwich and makes his daughters eat their mom to gain her powers. Which they do. That's how the other 8 titans are born. Also, the daughters' names are Sheena, Rose, and Maria. That's important, so remember it for later. Ymir's spirit ends up in the paths, where she then has to build titan bodies forever out of sand using nothing but a bucket of water in a desert where there is no water. Somehow she makes it work though, and even manages to go full Michelangelo on it and make some pretty awesome stuff. I can only imagine what the titans would look like if she actually sucked at sculpting. Also, imagine this. Every time Eren turns into the attack titan, Ymir has to sculpt the thing for 3 years. And don't try to guess how long it would take to sculpt the Colossal. Also, there's now a curse on every person who bears one of the 9 original titans. They die in 13 years. Well, this happens time and again, and eventually the subsequent kings all believe that the only one that really matters is the founder, and they begin to spread the other 8 to loyal families that will soon be not so loyal.
You loyal. Nope.
Also, the Ackerman clan comes into existence. They're immune to conventional titan power, despite being subjects of Ymir. 1216 years before the fall of Wall Maria, Eldia wages war against Marley with their titans and commit massive atrocities. This results in the fall of Lago and the devastation of Monta. A lot of people died, and that's why Marley hates Eldia. Oh wait, that was all propaganda. That never happened. Just strike that from the timeline. Eldia is hated by Marley without good reason. History, approximately 605 to 1 years before the fall of Wall Maria. There's too many years to list them all, so just cope. Anyway, a super epidemic takes over the world, and while everyone is dying, the Eldian king says, "No thanks, we don't want any of that," and just uses the founding titan to make his subjects immune to the Black Plague. After this though, Hizuru, which is basically like Titan Japan, decides to befriend Eldia, but eventually another king is born to the Eldians. His name is Karl, and he's kind. He decides that murder and genocide are whack, and decides that he wants to stage another war just so he can retire in peace, let the world have autonomy, and wait for the world to judge his people and kill them all. Okay, I said he was kind, I never said he was smart. I mean, he could have just gave people autonomy anyway. Why stage a war and just leave half of your people behind to be persecuted? Frankly, the entire series could have been undone by Karl if he just tried hard enough, but he decided to walk the way of the candy ass and just let the world suffer. Anyway, he has the Tiber family stage a Titan war where they will quote-unquote slay the founding Titan. As if such a thing is possible by any other Titan unless permitted by the founder. People just weren't smart back then. There's a massive war, and Marley claims its independence and begins persecuting the subjects of Ymir left behind. Despite this, Marley launches more wars to expand territory, basically making Karl's whole plan useless, as all it did was cause more war. But anyway, he goes to upside down Madagascar and sets up a kingdom he calls Paradise. The ever-pacifistic Karl then utilizes his founding titan to turn tens of millions of innocent Eldians into colossal titans, coats them in stucco, and turns them into a big ol' wall. Oh yeah, he cared about people's lives. Also, this probably took Ymir something close to 750 years in her own little space-time continuum to make that many titans. But anyway, because Karl the ever-boneheaded, literally the Hiruzen of Attack on Titan, abandoned his position and just set the world on fire because of peace, Hizuru's name is forever tarnished. The people left behind are put in internment zones and treated like trash just because they were born as subjects of Ymir, and Karl decides to erase the memories of all Eldians so they forget that the world exists beyond the walls he's made. He also makes a vow renouncing war to stop the founder from being used for evil, but all it really does is make it harder to use. Not to mention that Zeke later unrenounces war because apparently the rules can be changed, meaning this vow renouncing war was even more meaningless. The Ackerman clan and the Asian people who were living in the walls still remember though, because the founder only affects subjects of Ymir who aren't Ackerman. The Asians all die off though for some reason. The Ackerman are all loyal to the king, but when the king starts getting scared of them, he decides to Order 66 them all, save a couple who spawn the characters Kenny, Mikasa, and Levi fangirl favorite Ackerman. Years pass and some of our heroes end up being born. One of these is Erwin Smith, who forever I will hear the voice of Jotaro Kujo from. Well, his father tells him that the history books don't add up and somehow jumps to the conclusion that the whole world's memory was altered. Erwin, being the loudmouth brat he was, told all his friends who told their parents who told the government, and the government was like, "Yeah, no, we gotta fine you for that," and charges him his whole life. Elsewhere, a little girl is born without a name, is basically street trash, and ends up becoming the head of a cult somehow who worships her like she were the founding Titan Ymir. The FBI busts down the doors though, and the cult blames the little girl, now named Ymir, and so Marley and FBI believes that the best course of action is capital punishment. They take the girl to Paradise and inject her with the Titan fluid that turns her into a pure Titan, and let her go run free in a hellish state. Grisha Jaeger and his little sister are then born into the world. Starry-eyed and very curious, they forget that they live on the most racist country in the world and decide to go look at the blimps, only to get beat up, assaulted, and fed to dogs. Well, Grisha doesn't get fed to dogs, but his little sister does. And what is a boy to do when that happens? Start an underground resistance group, of course. He then happens to marry a woman who is somehow related to King Karl, like I guess the king left his own children behind? Another mark on his record. They then have a baby and name him Zeke. They want him to gain the powers of a Titan so he can take over Marley, but he decides it's too risky and doesn't want to do it. They pressure this little 8-year-old into becoming a weapon of mass destruction and he freaks out, telling the only adult who he thinks can love him. That adult, Mr. Kasarver, tells Zeke to turn his parents into the FBI, and, well, he does just that. Mr. Kasarver then tells Zeke that he wants to get the founding Titan to spay and neuter the entire Eldian race because he had to watch his own wife and child commit self-oof because they didn't know he was Eldian. I'm telling you, the racism in this world is brutal. Zeke is like, alright, and sets it as his whole life goal, especially as he has to eat Mr. Kasarver. On Paradise though, Grisha and his wife are going to be executed, or, turned into pure Titans, which the series says is basically the same thing. Grisha tries to save his wife's life by telling everyone that she's a royal, but the Owl, who is an Eldian restorationist who is deep undercover in the Marleyan army, shuts him up and lets her get turned into a Titan. The Owl then turns into the Attack Titan, one of the 9, and kills everyone on the wharf save Grisha. My question is why he didn't do that before they killed Grisha's wife? I don't know. But the owl makes Grisha eat him after telling him that he needs to reclaim the founding titan, and then sends him to live in the walls. Grisha sorta loses his memory for a time, but it all comes back eventually after he becomes a doctor in paradise. He ends up meeting a waitress at a pub and marries her right out from under a garrison guard who is like, no harm, no foul, and practically saves everyone in the walls when he discovers the cure to a disease that's killing everyone. Because at this point, the founding titan can't even cure disease, it's so nerfed by Carl. At around this time, Levi Ackerman is born. He's malnourished because he's basically a street rat who was born to a mother who died of an STD. His uncle Kenny takes him under his wing and teaches him all the good stuff before abandoning him to the criminal underworld. Kenny, seeing the persecution of the Ackerman clan, decides to go full Sasuke and kill all of the military police and the king until the king pulls him in a cult. After this, Kenny wants to become the head of the cult so it can be all love, peace, and chicken grease, because apparently his life sucks. Eren and Mikasa are born, as is Armin, their best friend. At around this time, Grisha discovers the place where the Reese family, the true royal family of paradise, are hiding, but gets cold feet, cold legs, and cold everything, deciding that the founding titan isn't that important anymore. He then returns home. He lives with his family for a while and then goes to make a house call to see a woman who is Asian, her husband who is an Ackerman, and their daughter who is the most rare type of person in all of paradise. But apparently a bunch of other people know she's rare because a group of kidnappers come through, kill the husband, kill the wife, and kidnap Mikasa to sell her into slavery. Eren Yeager, the little fire starter he is, grabs a knife, finds the little shack where they're hiding, and pretends to be a lost child, before shivving at least 2 of the slavers, and Mikasa decides to go Super Saiyan and kills the last one herself. After this, Mikasa basically starts simping for Eren. Nothing shouts, "I love you," like a brutal killing. At around this time, Erwin Smith, the newest captain of the Survey Corps, recruits Levi to his cause, and Zeke realizes that apparently he can control pure titans. Poggers. Story 845 to whenever the end is supposed to be. After the warrior unit, aka the Eldians we trust enough to use the 9 Titan squad, is selected, they're given the special mission of going and getting the founding titan, despite the fact that Carl made an empty threat, saying that he would destroy the world with a rumbling if anyone dared attack them. Well, Marley doesn't seem to believe it'll happen. Oh, and for those who don't know, a rumbling is when the founding titan calls upon thousands to millions of colossal titans to overrun the entire world and kill everyone. Anyway, Annie Leonhardt, the female titan, Bertolt Hoover, the colossal titan, Rainer Braun, the armored titan, and Marcel Galliard, the jaw titan, get to go to paradise, and on day 1, Marcel gets eaten, and his titan stolen by a pure titan who runs away with it. Also, the pure titan was the little cult girl Ymir, and because she ate a titan shifter, she can now return to her human form. Everyone blames Reiner and says that they want to go home, but Reiner displays one of his 1,000 mental breakdowns and somehow pulls the team together. They make it to the wall and they have Bertolt smash it in, which kills a lot of people, crushes the home of the Jaegers, and lets in titans. Those titans start eating everyone. Yummy. One particular titan, a smiling one, eats Eren's mom. What's funny is that this smiling titan is Grisha's first wife, the royal. So Grisha's first wife eats his second wife. The entire time this scene is playing, I can't help but sing Heartbreaker by Pat Benatar. I'ma show you what you get, home wrecker. Well, Eren swears eternal vengeance against the Titans and ends up joining the Survey Corps with Mikasa and Armin, and get this, the Titans that broke down Wall Maria. Elsewhere, Grisha confronts the Reese family and tells them to stop the Titans in Shiganshina, his hometown, and they're like, no. So he decides, after a little pep talk from future Eren, to kill everyone and take the Titan for himself. Not that he can do anything. Tatake. He then finds Eren and takes his son into the forest at night, injects him with Titan spinal fluid, and then lets Eren eat him, transferring both attack and founder to his son. Eren then becomes the cool kid in the cadet corps because he got to see a Titan, and Eren mentions seeing the colossal and armored Titans up close. Yup, Reiner taking a long sip of that coffee. After passing their test, they're told they all did well enough to join the military police, but only Annie joins it. The point of coming to the island was to join the military police to get close to the king, but for some reason Reiner and Bertolt decide to join the Survey Corps, so basically Annie is all alone now. Eren and the others are stationed in Trust, where suddenly the colossal titan appears. Who would have guessed?
Don't do it to me. I beg you. No.
It kicks the wall and it tries to do the same thing in Trust as it did in Shiganshina, but this time Eren is a titan, so he decides to use a rock to close the hole, and Reiner and Bertolt are like, we could attack him now and not let him destroy our plans. Or, you know, we could not. They decide not to, but they do kill Marco because he heard them talking to themselves. Poor Marco. Aaron goes on to get arrested for being a Titan, but they decide that he could be useful and give him to Levi, who adds him to his whole squad. They experiment with him and even introduce him to fellow Titans Sonny and Bean, though they're just pure Titans. Also, Annie kills these Titans for absolutely no reason, and later it bites her in the rear. They decide to go back to Shiganshina because Aaron has a key that he doesn't know where it came from. He assumes it will lead to the answer as to why he has Titan powers, and he is right. But the issue is getting there. They decide to ride to Shiganshina, but they're intercepted by the female Titan, who tries to take Aaron away, but is stopped when Mikasa and Levi show up. It's then that they begin to believe that the other odd Titans, the female, the armored, and the colossal, might be intelligent humans, like Aaron, if you can call that intelligent. They return to Wall Rose in shame, and Aaron cries a lot. But because Armin is such a smart guy, they deduce that Annie Leonhardt is the female Titan, and decide to trap her by leading her to a populated town in Walshina called the Stohess District, where they proceed to attack her and get a bunch of people killed. All the while, Erwin is like, people are collateral damage. Aaron, after a mental block, finally turns into the attack Titan and goes full smooth criminal on Annie, ending up trapping her in a crystalline structure. She, being absolutely no help at all, gets locked up until the crystal can be broken. Don't expect that to happen anytime soon though. However, her attempt to escape reveals to the characters that the wall is made of Titans. After this, Zeke Yeager, the Beast Titan, and Piek Finger, the Cart Titan, appear on Paradise and proceed to start poking around in Wall Rose. A guy named Mike sends an envoy to tell others, but Mike gets eaten as Zeke tries to understand what ODM gear is. After that, he goes to Ragako Village and proceeds to turn everyone there into pure Titans. As word gets out, the main characters are sent to help warn surrounding settlements about the Titans, and as night falls, they decide to check the wall for breaches, but find none. They decide to stay at Utgard Castle, where they proceed to play tower defense against Titans as the Beast Titan just sort of plays Bigfoot in the background, getting sighted before immediately leaving the scene. Ymir, who was a member of the Survey Corps, decides to reveal her secret Titan powers to defend everyone and almost gets dead, until Aaron and the rest of the group show up to kick butt and save everyone's rears. Because of the promise she made to her friend though, Krista Lenz, a character we haven't talked about yet, reveals that she is indeed the estranged princess of the Walls. As they get back to the Walls, they wonder who these Titan shifters might be, and Reiner and Berthold are like, oh, that's us. Fooled you, didn't we? Arr arr. They try to kidnap Aaron, but get chased down by the Survey Corps. Erwin Smith leads a bunch of Titans toward the warriors and loses an arm in the process. This gives Aaron enough time to escape. As they escape, Reiner begins throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at the Survey Corps, including Titans. It's at around this time that Aaron actually learns that he has the Founding Titan, when he commands Titans to attack Reiner and Berthold. They manage to make it back to the Walls, and it's revealed that Titans are actually humans who have been transformed. Not long after this, the heroes are hunted by the government for knowing too much about Titans. So you know what they do? What any sensible person would do: start a revolution that destroys a monarchy and replaces it with a totalitarian military regime that then transforms into another monarchy. They discover that Rod Reese is the true king of the Walls. He uses Kenny Ackerman to kidnap Historia Reese and Aaron Yeager, but when he does, he gets betrayed by Kenny, who wants the founder to himself, so he gives Aaron a fighting chance. Historia then refuses to take the founder, so Rod licks up the broken spinal fluid and tastes the rainbow. He turns into a massive Titan, but he no longer cares about Aaron, and just goes inchworming his way along the ground, searching for the biggest group of people to eat. He heads for the Orvud district, and in the meantime gets Kenny mortally wounded. Kenny prepares to turn himself into a Titan to save his life, but then remembers the Ackermans can't turn into Titans, so he gifts it to Levi, who then holds onto it for a rainy day. Foreshadowing. Aaron and friends beat Rob to the Orvud district and load up a bunch of barrels of gunpowder before throwing it into the mouth of the Titan, blowing it apart, Big Bertha style. Historia then finds the nape as it's falling and destroys it, because apparently she can only be Queen of the Walls if she kills her predecessor. After this, they begin killing off the Titans inside Wall Maria and head for Shiganshina again, where Zeke, Berthold, and Reiner are waiting. When they get there, they don't see any of the three Titans, but suddenly as they enter Shiganshina, they find that their only way out is surrounded by the Beast Titan and pure Titans. Then, in the Walls, literally, the armored Titan appears, and later on, Zeke decides to play Conky Dong and throws a barrel that has Berthold in it, who transforms with the mushroom cloud of a nuke. That's gotta be the coolest and scariest Titan of them all, save the founder, of course. So Aaron and Reiner box, Mikasa makes Reiner swallow a tomahawk missile, Berthold microwaves Armin to perfection, all while Levi decides to go shave a monkey. Also, Erwin Smith banzai'd towards Zeke with a bunch of people, and they all died. In the end, the warriors lost, and everyone escapes except Berthold, who gets fed to Armin to save Armin's life, turning Armin into the new Colossal Titan. And let's not forget, Hanji Zoe, a friend of Levi, is named the next captain of the Survey Corps. They then get a Star Wars style award ceremony where they each get a cool new bolo tie. Eren makes the mistake of kissing Astoria Reese's hand and then sees the future of him killing everyone. It messes him up so bad that for some reason he decides to kill everyone. Well, Eren goes to the beach with his friends after they kill all the Titans, and Eren creepily points across the sea and says, "If we kill all our enemies over there, will we finally be free?" Armin and Mikasa are like, "Bro, we just want to spend the day at the beach." So after this, they decide to camp out at the beach until the Marleyans come to take a look. Eren grabs the boat, though, and brings it to shore where Marleyan traders appear and kill the captain. Yelena is her name, and she has others with her. They were sent by Zeke, who secretly wants to join Paradise. I'm sure there are no bad intentions whatsoever. These soldiers are accepted into Paradise anyway. The Azumabito clan of Titan Japan show up to befriend Paradise as well, though the partnership falls through when Historia learns that all they really want is to have oil, gas, and mineral rights of the island. All the while, a war is being waged by the rest of the world. The reason being that a bunch of people with muskets kicked Marley's butt, and now the whole world thinks they can, and Marley decides to show them why that was just a fluke. Marley stomps a hole in the Mid-East Alliance along with the help of the Titans. During this time, Eren sneaks into Marley, where he plans to meet Zeke for the first time. Eren decides that he's going to take Zeke home with him, but not before humiliating Marley more by attacking basically the only place that's safe for his race to live. He eats the Warhammer and basically destroys the military might of Marley, all while Armin nukes the harbor where most of their battleships were sitting. Eren is intent to prove to the world that Paradise's victory indeed was not a fluke. Eren and Zeke make it back to Paradise, but Eren is arrested for disobeying orders and is made fun of for talking to himself. Zeke is kept in the forest where he drinks coffee and reads a book for the umpteenth time. But it turns out that there's treason cooking, and by treason cooking, I mean Niccolo, the Marleyan cook that they took in from when Eren captured the boat, has spiked the wine he's serving everyone with Zeke's spinal fluid. Zeke starts screaming like a maniac, and then everyone starts turning into Titans. That doesn't stop Levi from killing them all single-handedly and then capturing Zeke again. He attaches explosives to Zeke and tells him not to move, but Zeke moves by accident and blows everyone up. Levi loses an eye and a couple fingers while Zeke loses almost everything. He then meets Amir, who sculpts for him a new lower body, one that he then never covers again for the duration of the series. Like, for real, it's like Zeke is looking for a reason to go into battle nude. Anyway, they made it to Shiganshina, where Eren has decided to take over. Having been let out of prison, he is now the de facto leader of Paradise. That's when Marleyan airships show up to say, "Okay, Paradise had 2 flukes." Eren is told to retreat, but he says, "Nah, I'ma give Paradise a 3rd fluke." As all the remaining warriors appear, they try to attack Shiganshina and take Eren, but then Zeke shows up and fakes his death so that Eren can get to him. Eren makes a run for it, but then Gabby, a character we've not yet talked about, but in short is Reiner's niece, 360 no-scopes him and decapitates him, only for Zeke's baseball obsession to finally come into play when he catches his brother's head and starts the rumbling. Zeke tells Eren to now castrate every Eldian ever, only for Eren to be like, "Nah, I don't really feel like it." And Zeke says, "You better feel like it," and takes him down memory lane to show him why his father was wrong and why Zeke is right. Eren actually proves that he's been controlling his father all along, as well as many of the other bearers of the Attack Titan, all to bring him to this moment. He then betrays Zeke again and turns into the Founding Titan and decides to take the world out slowly. Mikasa, Armin, and the remaining warriors from Marley decide to tag team on Eren and search for him to try and convince him to stop being evil. They go to a port to try and take an airplane, but it has bullet holes and no gas, so they take it to another place to fix it up. While they do so, colossal Titans appear and try to kill everyone. Hanji Zoe passes the title of Captain of the Survey Corps to Armin and decides to go have her moment. She literally dies in a blaze of glory. The plane escapes though, and as they talk about how they will convince Eren to stop killing everyone, Eren calls them up on the Titan phone and tells them, "Nope, you gotta kill me." And they're like, "But how? You can just decide to win at any time." Eren's like, "Yeah, but I won't do that because then the story wouldn't be that interesting, you dig?" And they're like, "Okay." So they skydive onto Eren's back and begin fighting Titans and stuff. As it turns out, Eren can spawn out past Titan shifters on his back, including his own father and Berthold. However, when Armin gets kinda dead, he talks to them, as well as to Zeke, and convinces them not to help Eren, and they decide not to. Some of the dead Titans on Eren's back turn against him, and Zeke pops his head out, and Levi gets to play Decapitate-A-Mole and kills him, causing the rumbling to stop. They then blow Eren's head off, and Armin destroys the rest of the Founding Titan's body. Yay! Happy ending! Wrong. The worm in his neck decides to keep on fighting and turns other Eldians into pure Titans to help it win, and Eren shows up as a colossal Titan to have a 1v1 with Armin. Armin knocks out Eren's front tooth, and by the power of plot armor, Mikasa discovers that this is where his head is. She goes in, decapitates the love of her life, and then buries him under the tree in Shiganshina. Technically, the series then dictates that this starts an endless time loop, and that the moment Eren dies, he wakes up again, but really, I guess that's just a theory. But what the series does say happens after this is that everyone becomes ambassadors to Paradise, where they try to convince Paradise not to hold any more grudges against the world, and they're like, nope, we hate them forever. So the world kinda rebuilds and then starts another world war that destroys everything except for the tree where Aaron's head is buried. But now that tree is the same type of tree that Ymir found, and wouldn't you know it, a little child and their dog find that tree and stumble inside. That dog is gonna make a wonderful founding titan. And that's basically the entire history of Attack on Titan, based on my memory and a wiki page. Thanks for the jogging, Attack on Titan fandom wiki. Anyway, what did you think about the video? Did you like it? And if so, tell us about it. We would love to hear from you. And while you're at it, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified when new videos like this drop. Oh, and try out these two videos. They're great! Until next time, peace.